Hi, I'm Chris Baldrey Chourio, founder and CEO of ConstructKoin. For decades, real estate finance has been a locked room. Slow banking on one side, desperate developers on the other, and ordinary people shut out altogether. We built ConstructKoin to change that. Our platform lets you become the lender. Buy a single ConstructKoin token and you're staking alongside institutions earning the same 8 to 12% yields that private credit funds once kept for themselves. How? Well, we've fused deep learning risk models with smart contracts. The AI collects data points from building information management software to land values, material prices and contract and company history in minutes, while our human lending committee is the final step in the decision, securing a legal charge over the title deeds of land or property. When a project hits build phase milestone, approvals take minutes, funds unlock automatically. Builders can break ground in no time at all, whether they're developers in London, Liverpool or Lima. That speed and transparency attracts top-tier developers like Beaufort Homes, and it opens the door for you to fund projects globally, one token at a time. And to prove our model is backed by bricks, we're raffling an entire completed home worth nearly $1 million to pre-sale participants. Lend, earn, and maybe own a house outright, no bank required. Join us, let's rewrite real estate finance together.
Welcome to the Bricks and Banks podcast, where real estate meets real wealth. Whether you're building from the ground up or stacking your paper to the ceiling, Steph breaks down property power plays and money moves you can act on. From first-time buyers to seasoned investors, this podcast is your blueprint for financial freedom through property, investment, and business. Subscribe now. It's time to build your future. This is Bricks and Banks with Steph.
We are live. Hey everyone, welcome to another amazing episode of the Bricks and Banks podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, and today on the pod, I have with me Chris Baldrey Chourio. This was close to heart because he's based here with me in London, so my first London guest in the house. Yay!
Oh wow, what a privilege.
Yeah, I've been praying. I told God I need someone in London I can actually see, and we can do like a spin-off series, and we can do like one-on-one, face-to-face thing, and yeah, he brought you to the pod. So a bit about Chris. Chris is the CEO and founder of ConstructKoin. He's an AI and real estate and blockchain innovator. He's very close to the heart because this is all homegrown innovation here in London, and he's the pioneer of the Be the Bank movement. Welcome, Chris, to the pod today.
Hey, Stephanie, thank you very much for that very warm introduction, homegrown introduction. It's yeah, to talk to you. Thank you.
Amazing. And you've had such a diverse journey, and like I said, you're my first London guest, so this interview is very dear to my heart, and I'm going to make sure it goes out ASAP.
Brilliant.
You've had such a diverse journey from online sales to mortgage advising to the military. You basically worked in the British military, which is crazy. And now you're pioneering AI and blockchain in real estate. If we want to roll back the clock and see what life had you growing up in London, what was your early experiences like that shaped you to this entrepreneurial mindset you have today?
Yeah. So given the amount of grey hair that I can see on my face, I'm not sure that we have enough hours in the day to roll back the clock, right? But especially
you can't be that old, Chris. Don't be humble.
Especially with some of the stuff that you put up. But yeah. No, my first professional foray into the early stages of my career into property were in the mortgage world and actually working with property developers who were selling new built properties on mass. And after becoming qualified as a mortgage advisor, or part qualified as a mortgage advisor, as the regulation was coming in, I decided that this wasn't for me and threw myself at a career, or the early stages of a career in the military. But in answer to your question, I think the entrepreneurial spirit has probably always been in me growing up. I'm one of those people that's probably been really difficult to employ. So for all my past managers and bosses, I apologize. It tends to be difficult, asking lots of questions and challenging stuff. But sometimes you just see that things can be done differently. And I think the dream that we all follow as entrepreneurs and innovators and creators is how to make our own dreams a reality, right? And you try and fail. And if at first you don't succeed, you just get up and try again. And that is the alchemy of life, right? There's a long trajectory of learning in that. And I think And what we've seen in the last 20 years through digitalization, digital transformation, the onset of e-commerce, now the onset of AI, consolidating so much tech innovation, hardware, software, and now blockchain is like, wow, here's a new opportunity. And it's, every time one of these pushes the waves into shore, you kind of think, can I ride that wave? And I've had the fortune of since leaving the military, since the last 10 years, having the opportunity to play very closely in the world of e-commerce technology and platform software integration implementation through workforce and recruitment and professional services. And I've been very close to some of the biggest implementations in specific commerce platform industries, from SAP Hybris, ATG, all the way down to Shopify, BigCommerce, and various other platform ecosystems. So I've been very close to tech for a while, albeit not hands-on. And I've seen some of this opportunity shaping. So I have found a path that plugs into, I guess, the early stages of my career, working with some really smart people, some really cool people to shape what we're doing now.
Was that all in the military, like most of it in the military? Like, at what point in your life did you say, I need to go and defend the world?
No, I think I was looking for a holiday, a paid holiday. But no, the truth is, it's just become a part of my life where I think I was probably... I was at a bit of an intersection of what happens next, and bored with the administrative side of things of mortgage advice and practice. And I think, I felt that if I didn't do it then, I'd be too old to do it later. And it was something I always wanted to do. I've always been really fit and active, loved the outdoors. And I love the idea of being around like-minded people that will push boundaries. So I sort of jumped in and threw myself at it for a few years, and then realized, having done a tour in Afghanistan and a few other things, that this is great. But I've done what I can to help people. I want to help people in other ways. And that's the transition that I made into recruitment, which is, believe it or not, a lot of people see it as a sales role, but actually there's something really quite satisfying in helping people change their lives by doing your job. Helping people get a job that changes their earning potential is a huge thing, when you can see that, 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever the number is, £1,000 more a year, what that can do to someone if they're if they're trying to push forward.
Amazing. So your stage in real estate, was it just for the mortgage advisory bit, or you were into the full-time real estate before?
No. So that was one component of it, but it just meant that we were into deal structuring. We're having conversations with individuals about building their own wealth, utilizing their asset base to refinance and reinvest, and presenting opportunities that may or may not be suitable to them. And I think that was my first understanding of the complexity of the UK real estate, some of the barriers to entry for everyday people who want to either build their own home, refinance a home, do extensions, or even just invest in buy-to-let properties. And I think that was where I got my real inculcation and understanding of what the industry was and is and potentially could be, and more importantly, just some of the real challenges that both developers and individuals have who are aspiring to build businesses in the industry, And I think I was probably quite overwhelmed back then. I was quite young. I didn't have the grey hair, and I felt that I needed to be able to come back at it with a fresh set of eyes. I think that was the start and stop of it. The real estate piece I've always been close to. I've done bits in real estate that have meant that it's never been that far away. And of course, where we've been looking at the innovation in the industry and looking at what we could do, that created the initial ideation around ConstructKoin specifically, and how we can help others be part of an ecosystem that we're building that is about reshaping, redefining real estate and creating opportunity for others at the same time.
Yeah, I love the fact that you came up with ConstructKoin. So let's talk about it for a bit, since we're here already. What is ConstructKoin all about? Is it another digital asset? Is it another crypto coin we can buy on Binance and whatever? What is it about? What's the concept, and what are you trying to achieve with the company?
Yeah, so let's start with the end game, try and answer some of those questions.
Okay.
So it's very much all of the above, right? But we're not at a point yet where a crypto investor can go to a marketplace or an exchange and buy our token. We will be, but we're not there yet. So we're right at the beginning of the journey. But what we've spent the last year doing is essentially building the protocol. ConstructKoin is about the transformation of real estate through AI. Our protocol through our token, which is what the investor sees, is all about 3 pillars of AI. It's AI lending, non-regulated lending, so providing development finance to experienced developers who who want to play a part in solving the housing crisis in the UK. It's about AI in the sales and lettings process. But rather than looking at the pre-existing market where there's lots of brands, businesses, intermediaries offering real estate agency, this is about working with developers to sell and let properties that have been built en masse. And then it's about smarter homes. It's about integrating AI into real tangible use cases that deliver benefits that people can build positive habits around and don't feel forced to use technology. And with that, we're talking about things like energy saving, energy efficiency, and being able to position our token as the asset that you can then use in your wallet as fiat or in a certain concept to be able to trade that as a crypto. But what we're developing is a comprehensive ecosystem around the delivery of UK family housing stock that that AI integrates into, from build into sales into the living space.
Oh, so would people be able to use their assets to like buy homes? Is that what you're trying to
Yeah,
achieve?
so absolutely one of the pillars, not necessarily use our token to do so, but one of the pillars that we are developing in the real world use case, and that's the fundamental part of it, right? So, an investor can invest in ConstructKoin and be part of building and shaping this ecosystem. So that's what the CTK token represents, what the coin represents. It's AI and real estate. But what we're really saying in one of those advanced use cases is that we will build houses with developers where people who have been frozen out of the housing ladder might see an opportunity to own a home through one of our developers, which is funded by CTK. So it's a very different take on shared ownership and the idea of a housing association. It's part own, part rent, and it's about how the CTK token can provide that facility. That's a regulated process, right? We're not at that point yet, but that's very much part of our roadmap with the housing stock that we're working with developers to build. So rewinding back to the beginning, today, CTK token is all about building a loan book that can fund property development. So we're working with some leading developers in Surrey and the southeast of England specifically, who are building family homes around the home counties. And we are funding those developments and developing all of our use cases with these real world assets, these real world developments through CTK. And of course, what that means is that if you're investing in ConstructKoin as a token now in the pre-sale that we're about to launch, not only do you have the advantage of the price appreciation of the token in our pre-sale, i.e. your token increasing in value, but that every token is secured by a property development. And so we're providing the stability of a solid business plan for the trajectory of our token, but we're also providing the security of real world developments that secure those tokens and secure the entire ecosystem. That's the fundamental part of it, that ConstructKoin is backed by real world assets.
That's very smart. And I know a lot of people will be wondering, how can we get our hands on it?
Yeah, so when we launch, we'll be launching in 2 weeks. And
2 weeks.
We've I've been doing lots of interviews and been talking to lots of great people about what we're doing and people like yourself. And you simply come to constructkoin.com and you can engage in purchasing our tokens. If you're an existing token holder, we accept BTC, BNB, Sol, Poly, USDT. The ConstructKoin token is pegged to USDT. You can check out with fiat using Apple Pay, Google Pay, debit, credit card. We tried to make it as seamless as possible. If you're in the UK, this is regulated. So if you're in the UK, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to buy our tokens. But outside of the UK, or as a professional self-certified investor, you can. And of course, when you visit our website, you'll be directed accordingly. And that's it. We're not able to to promote our pre-sale in the UK because come down very hard on those things. As I say, we have a global audience and we're promoting globally. And once you visit our website, you can figure out what is the best thing for yourself to do.
Exciting times ahead, and we can't wait for 2 weeks. So you have this philosophy of be the bank, which is such a bold concept. I know you're trying to achieve a part of it with ConstructKoin. So can you walk us through where this idea came from and what it actually means for everyday people in finance?
Yeah, I'd love to. So there's a few hard truths when it comes to the industry, right? And if you think about construction, property development, land in general, there's one constant in all of that, right? What we do see is that houses are built, houses are sold, houses come and go, property comes and goes, right? The land that these assets are built on come and go. Developers equally come along, build these assets, they come and go. Developers make money out of that process, individuals make money out of that process, but it's not consistent, right? But the one entity that is constantly making money out of the land that is offered as security for people to build houses, homes, commercial establishments is the bank. And that's a closed door community, right? So, excuse me, when we talk about being the bank, that is the decentralized nature of crypto, of digital currency. And in creating a token that is a utility token today, but as we build out our protocol, has real utility in the real world, changes the opportunity that we can create to that decentralized ecosystem, that community of people that see how crypto operates, who want the security of real world trading with digital growth. You know, the innovation that we've seen through decentralized applications and the onset of Web3. So when we talk about be the bank, it's you as an individual who's motivated to invest in a digital currency, is motivated by the opportunity that comes from success through the growth of or the appreciation of an asset you've invested in. It's about us being able to say to you, you can play as much or as little as you choose. But one thing you can be sure of is the CTK token is growing. And this is what we're doing. We're building a robust real estate ecosystem that's open to anybody that wants to partake, that can, subject to the jurisdiction that they're in, of course.
I like the fact that you're not just saying it, you're doing it, because you're using ConstructKoin to open up the avenue for people to actually be the bank. So can you share like a behind the scenes look at the first property you secured and what's that process looked like? Because you've been able to back real income generating properties on ConstructKoin.
For sure. So it's a bit more than that. So when we were initially road mapping and creating the concept, we recognized the importance of real world assets, right? So there's a few people in my team that are native crypto players. There's a few people that are property players, and there's a few people that haven't done either, but understand the financial system really, really well. And I guess the need we had to be able to start properly was to be able to actually have income generating assets on chain from day one. And so we set about our private round prior to having built the smart contracts that we're working through and having built the digital infrastructure we needed to issue our token, by bringing together an investor pool who were happy to invest in our ideation, invest in what we were creating, and allow us to secure our first development, which we did, which is a lovely scheme over in Kent. And we have taken a very large former sports factory, demolished it, and are now turning that into our MVP concept, if you like, in partnership with a leading developer to deliver the first housing scheme. It's a community-based housing scheme, combination of 2, 3 and 4 bedroom family homes. And they will be our test bed for deploying our smarter homes concept and actually learning as we build how we refine the tools that we've conceptualized through AI in the construction process to the end product of our concierge and butler service that we will integrate into smarter homes that will enable some of these great things that we're talking about. And of course, by having that site, we're able to test the economics of our tokenomics. That is the lending principle and the tooling that we have created as an MVP that allows us to appraise a specific development. So the first pillar of ConstructKoin is AI-based development finance, as I said, right? Which means that we're basically we're providing development finance to developers. We're charging them an amount of interest for the use of that money. So it's money for money. And that's the first return that comes to holders of CTK. It's the interest that we generate from that loan book. And so we did that off chain. We've now brought that security on chain, and every development that we have that we're partnered with a developer through where we're providing finance, all of that is on chain. And of course, the appraisal tool that we've developed takes all of the information and allows us to make an informed decision within minutes and hours, not weeks and months. So the developers that we appraise and work with have access to that finance on scale, which means that we can deploy our loan book very, very, very quickly.
So essentially, you're not using any banks for this. You're just basically crowdfunding on people's investments. Is that it?
Yeah, so it's a concept. I guess it's a take on crowdfunding when we talk about the community pool, right? But the essence of it is that we build that loan book and we deploy that loan book, and that loan book is to developers who have basically been appraised for finance. It is a take on all crypto products to agree. When you're in a pre-sale, when you're raising, when you're selling tokens and raising, it is a form of crowdfunding. The community of the crowd in the crypto world is a global audience. So it's a very big crowd, right? And I like to call it the masses. And I think the truth is that actually the opportunity is about defining what it looks like as a protocol, what it looks like as an ecosystem, and saying to people, this is what we've conceptualized off chain. This is what we've brought on chain. Here is the security. And then a really, really important part of that, which is actually very similar to what the banks do, is the credit risk exposure. So we're only ever lending to a maximum of 75% of the total value of a development. So there is always that 25% buffer as an additional protection, which is the same principle that the banks use. And, we're taking a lot of the process of appraising and development that is done in the real world and wrapping that up as a concept and then deploying that, and where necessary, recording the data on chain. But things like valuations, things like the conveyancing process, all of the professional bodies that are involved are part of our appraisal service that we're able to plug into digitally.
Nice. I love how everything makes sense, and the fact that you're using AI to sort of do the loan assessments bit of it. Have you done any real life example? Can you share like a real deal you basically
So
used AI to test?
transaction, that first transaction that we built the MVP of our product around is about that appraisal process. So it's taking, for example, the submission from the developer. It's about taking, and that includes the planning application, which is obviously fully approved. That includes our own costings, the valuation that will have been conducted. We have our own valuers, and without a name dropping, they are the authority in the industry because it's the same entity that is instructed by banks, development finance banks. And there's a conveyancing process which plugs into the land registry. So there's a huge use case for change when we talk about real estate, right? In terms of the use of AI, automating processes and digitalizing some of the documentation processes, and where that documentation can be recorded on chain, right? Because of the nature of the evolvement of some of that documentation. But for us, it was about how do we combine the KYC, the KYB on the particular organization, both the business and the individuals running that business who are responsible for that business, because they have to provide personal guarantees. It's about the building information management software that we use, that we integrate to look at the projected build scheme and the costings to a penny that have been submitted by that developer. And it's about how all of that information is appraised by AI to highlight risk and to look at where the potential problems are, and to be able to challenge and appraise to be able to come to an informed decision based on the probability of success. But remember, what we are doing is automating as well a lot of those human processes so that so it can be moved faster. That's the fundamental part of it, right? And one of the big stumbling blocks for developers is the speed of which they're able to act. But equally, the due diligence on both companies and individuals is really, really important, because you have to ensure that they're capable, track record, and suitable. And that's the due diligence piece. That's why the information we take in is about how do we run that review? How do we use existing tools that we've created a framework through to get in the necessary data to get the outcome that allows us to make a decision? And look, the final part of the process is actually the appraisal of that information through a human lending committee. But it's fundamentally about how that data is being prepared, analysed, and presented so that human beings can make an informed decision. But the culmination of all of that means that through that MVP, we've been able to create a process and a framework for a product that allows us to make a very, very fast decision and that enables us to act. So that first transaction was a £12.5 million deal, which, as I say, we concluded off chain. And now it's in flight. The security that we provide to all of our to every token holder is recorded using a document hash on chain. So it's a very simple process for doing that, but it just means that through a legal structure, a debenture structure, and a few other bits and pieces, that the investors are secured at all times by real world assets that are in flight, whilst making money from day one. That's the critical part of this. So the reason why we did this off chain was so that when we launch, the business is already making money. It's not another crypto project that hopes to be successful, that burns through invested money and disappears. It's a cash flow cycle, right? But fundamentally, it is about utility that we're making. We're generating revenues, profitable revenues from data.
That's very interesting. And in terms of the timeline, you said you're crashing down timeline. What's the typical timeline it takes without using your AI ConstructKoin system? And what's the timeline you crash it down using your system?
So lending can take anything from weeks to months in the construction world. There's so many different variables that a lender will look at. but they all follow a very similar process. So I guess what we've been able to do is amalgamate the information and present a format that means you can chew through it very, very quickly. But our criteria for this product to be suitable is also quite rigid insofar as, what we're not doing is sitting on sites that are waiting for planning approval. These are fully consented sites that are good to go. And fundamentally, what we're talking about here is unregulated commercial finances, B2B lending to one business to another. And it is about the concept of also short-term finance, which is, for example, a bridging facility. But again, all of these loans are secured loans. So you're never overexposed, right? And the idea is that we have the ability to make those decisions really, really fast. Every case is going to be different, but we're talking hours, not days and months in every case. That's the point. And of course, if we need to refine that information, then we just restart the process, but we're still saving time and able to make an informed decision very quickly for the benefit of all parties. And that's it. That's the essence of the first pillar. We've got some really exciting stuff planned for the use of lending in the mass market, but that does involve a regulatory roadmap, and we will start conversations with the FCA as to how we can offer some retail products as the UK digital currency ecosystem is being shaped. And CTK's objective beyond what I've just said is to look at how ConstructKoin can become a stable coin based on the revenue generation of the portfolio that we are building. Through rental incomes, through shared ownership, and being able to show real liquidity in all of these use cases where these businesses are generating revenue for the token.
Why I'm smiling is the fact that I know that back end, in terms of audits, because before now I was an auditor into asset and wealth management audits.
I saw on your profile.
People that will be into like the digital asset audit of your firm, it will be easy because you just pull out the data, you've seen all the walkthroughs, all the workflows, it's seamless, and you're basically crushing that time as well. Because you're not just making life easy for the investors, you're not just making life easy for the construction people, you're making life easy for us that are going to be auditing your books later.
Yeah, so that's the point, right? So we run as an open book. That's the fundamental principle.
Exactly.
Of a construction company, let alone a digital business, right? But I think if you start with that foundation pillar that anybody with the right permissions and authorities can look at any part of our process and scrutinize any aspect of it, that's really, really important. But in the construction world, that's really important because what you can't have is someone saying this brick or this window cost £100 when in fact it cost £1. Right. So there's detail there when we talk about quantity survey, but also when we're talking about accountability and where the funds are deployed. Fundamentally, we're building a load book and we're deploying that load book to generate revenue. You know, so what we've tried to do is create processes that are the early stage of a lot of the digitalization that is yet to roll out, and the automation and the use of AI in particular in industry. And so, ConstructKoin as a protocol is about also demonstrating that we're creating use cases for the use of AI in parts of the industry that haven't yet been touched. So it's that first mover advantage that we're trying to create in certain instances. Nice. And I think that when you look at opportunity, so I'm a big believer in creating categories you can own, and inspired by some of the bigger brands that everyone knows now just through change of habits like Uber and a few others. But my point is that by creating the category and being first to move, you become the category leader. And we see that opportunity with AI in so many parts of real estate. So what we're trying to do is build an economy and an ecosystem with what we can control and influence. And that's by working with developers who build the product, but actually delivering that change from the ground up through the build process all the way to the end product, which of course means that we're then looking at the sales and lettings and the marketing of that and what that experience looks like as well. So there's so many different use cases that are revenue generating beyond what our first pillar is, which is AI lending, right? And once we evolve that and we're in a broader market where we're operating across the board through development, through sales, through letting, through evolved finance, so we're then looking at the retail opportunity. And no one's really talked about the potential for the crypto markets, creating mortgage products or creating loan products that could be secured against houses that people who are new to the country or people who aren't able to attain typical credit can use. We've started to see a lot of those products in the insurance world, but they haven't yet trickled down into the financial services world. So we see a huge opportunity here, not just de-risking the buying process, but being able to create products that enable people to acquire portions of their property through the use of a crypto product like ConstructKoin. So these are part of our roadmap and part of the tokenomics that we're shaping. But fundamentally, it is about how do we create categories that we can own. But you can only do that when you have a grasp of the ecosystem that you're in. And we're trying to create those foundations. That was what C2K is all about.
It's very interesting. And talking about regulations, I know that you said that it's built to launch within the next 2 weeks. Do we have a date on that yet?
I can't give you a specific date, but I'm going to say next Friday. I'm going to say to you next Friday is the day. And I'll tell you what's why, because we've been going through quite a lot of aggressive testing. Look, our site is live at the moment. You can come into the back end. You can create an account, but there's bugs on our site. This is the truth of our journey, right? We've been deploying, we've been testing. Our focus has been getting the business model right, and the aesthetics of that have included, building out our front end, making sure the smart contracts have been tested. We're in discussions with Certec to get our audit finished. There's so many things that we've been working through to be able to launch efficiently and effectively. So we've pushed the date back a few weeks, as you know, right? And I say that humbly, but the truth is that we want to be able to launch next week. I think next Friday will be the day. The reason why I haven't set a date in stone is because we haven't booked a lot of the PR and the press that we've had holding pattern ready to start talking about us. But I have started the circuit of speaking to great people like yourself, doing interviews, hoping to get quotes, all the things that we need to do so people know what we're doing. And I think that's the critical part of this, right? I know we want to spread the word. I want people to see that what we're doing, that we're not just another crypto project, that there's real utility behind what we're doing. And of course, that means that more people will want to get involved. And as we evolve our plan and we start the journey towards building our own network, there's an entire ecosystem globally which we need to plug into to support transactions and the recording of accurate data, helping us mine and so on and so forth. So there's so much ahead of us that actually to say that we're launching is really just to say that we're starting. But I think the narrative of a launch will be a daily conversation.
Exactly.
Just on that journey, And
that makes a lot of sense. Looking at the regulation within the UK, Dubai, and the British Virgin Islands, where you intend to operate, how do you intend to navigate the regulatory side of things across these different jurisdictions and keeping innovation alive? Because I know that you're trying to be the bank, and the bank is going to push back at you. So
yes, we can only look.
Strategy around that.
Absolutely, look. There's a real reality when it comes to the state of crypto investing in the UK and across the world, in fact. I think Dubai has taken the lead with some of the innovation for lots of different reasons. And I've been in discussions with people in Vara and some authorities over there about how we could potentially set up. Dubai is on our roadmap. It's absolutely not on our roadmap, but it's not where we start. We absolutely start in the UK.
In the UK.
The lending that we are offering, the opportunity that we've created is unregulated in the UK. We're talking about construction, that's development, finance, right, bridging, and so on and so forth. The latter part of our plan does and will involve regulation. So we will need to talk to the FCA. We've started some of those initial discussions to understand what it looks like to be able to offer those retail products. When it comes to people investing in CTK, we cannot promote a CTK as an investment opportunity to a UK audience. So we can talk about it until we're blue in the face, but I can't actively market that you can invest to retail investors in ConstructKoin. But I guess the decentralized nature of crypto, that people find out about projects, people find out about opportunity, right? So we're talking about what we're doing, and it's up to the individual to make an informed choices, whether if they're in the UK, that is, that they want to invest in ConstructKoin, if that's what they do as crypto token holders. For the rest of the world, it's always going to be about their jurisdiction. We're a BVI, our holding company is a BVI company, so the ConstructKoin infrastructure is ultimately owned by a company registered out of the BVI. We have started the regulatory path there. So we're in the all status of that application. And that's the same as the regulation evolves, we'll ride the wave of regulation, right? But of course, with our tech infrastructure being delivered out of the UK, built globally, but delivered out of the UK, it's really important that we understand what that operating environment looks like. And at the moment, the UK is still shaping that, but there are some fundamental principles around what an organization can and can't do. And of course, we stick to that like glue, so that we don't fall foul of any regulatory requirements. But I think the priority is for us to tell our story. And look, the truth is, as the market evolves, people will find us. Once we've pushed through our pre-sale and we're listing on exchanges, piece will change, but then the regulation is taken care of by the exchanges that list us. And I've started talking to different organizations way ahead of time just to understand how we shape what we're doing. So that's a seamless process. And we'll work with a few partners around the world to maximize our visibility in different parts of the world to make sure our listing, our token generation event, when it happens, is as effective and goes as well as possible.
Nice. Let's go back to your time in the British Army. Are there lessons from your military career that's influence how you lead, how you run, and make your business decisions today?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a difficult question to answer. But I'll try. The answer is yes, overridingly, right? But I think anybody that gets involved with the military will take lots of positivity from it. I think in terms of just, solving problems, it's something that we always have to do in life, right? Is solve problems. And I think that something that's kind of been ingrained in the way that I work and the people that I look to work. We have, I think, that as a skill set in common. I think that military experience is not necessarily about the obvious stuff. It's about the less obvious stuff. And one of the most important lessons that I've learned is that, you don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You just need to be sure of your ability to do, and you work with like-minded people to achieve a goal and an outcome. And it's that, for want of better words, it's that muscle memory that helps you to address and solve problems, good problems, bad problems, if and when they arise. And that's the journey of entrepreneurship, right? You know where you want to get to, and we all know and recognize it's not a cliche to say that journey is up, down, left, right, round and round and round, backwards, forwards, up again, down again, over a hole, So that's what it is. And you just learn to, I think, be a bit more objective, or very much more objective, to be disciplined, to be structured. And these are things that you have to test and refine every day. There's no one solution fixes all. But I think what you do get is a mindset. And I think when you're questioning how to do something or figuring out, how to move forward, you're saying to yourself that there's always a way. It's just reminding yourself of what you know and being able to consolidate and go again. And I think as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you're aware, and your listeners will be aware, that's the one overriding thing that we probably all have in common, is just a determination to succeed, whatever your definition of success is.
Yes, exactly. Because once you have the vision, the most important thing is fixing that vision. Once you have that vision in sight, you would always find a strategy to achieve it. Even if one way doesn't work, you're going to look for the next way and
find
make
another
it work.
way. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's
so you have plan A, and plan B to Z is basically made up of how to make plan A work.
Yeah. And it's not A, B, and C.
Yeah.
It's normally D, E, and F.
Exactly.
Right? But it's acknowledging that you'll get there fundamentally. And it isn't just entrepreneurship. It's everything that we do in our lives. Right? So I think that's the answer to the question. It's the mindset and that self-belief, and I guess also knowing that you can enjoy the journey.
Exactly.
There's so many things in life
that's not a destination.
Yeah, and so many things in life that will make us think about the things that are just not important, and you can very easily prioritize stuff that you think is important that when all is said and done, it isn't. And therefore, I guess with the military, it's about just recognizing the realities of life, right? In certain parts of the world, you wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to think any different. So I feel very fortunate, very privileged, very grateful and humbled by both the people I've had the privilege of meeting, working with, and being exposed to, and being able to take some of those lessons and just apply them to my life. And we all make mistakes. I make mistakes every single day, and I try to remind myself about what's important, and remember that these are the things that shape you as a human being, right?
Sure.
To do good and push forward always.
Yeah. And let's talk about your background. You have background in recruitment where you help people to get jobs and whatnot. And you've seen the firsthand the importance of building the right team. How were you able to approach your team building, like bringing in the right people in such a high stakes project like ConstructKoin?
Yeah, so that's really interesting observation. I guess it starts with what recruitment is. So when I built that business, there was a very specific opportunity that I spotted in the world of e-commerce. So platform implementation and integration, e-commerce platform. So when you go to a large retailer or business's website, it's that digital experience. What did that look like? And I think when we look at recruitment as a process, it's about a company needing a certain type of person. What makes somebody a successful fit for an organization is not just about what the company wants, it's what the person wants. And what you learn very quickly is that you're selling humans to humans. And I found that, at first I found that really quite difficult. And a lot of people think it is a very straightforward process, but the detail, the nuances of that is just understanding what a match is. And so what I found, which I think played to the success that we had during those times and what we do now, is that you can't force this stuff. If someone is looking for if someone's got multiple job applications, which if you're looking for a job because you need to earn money to put food on the table, you need to understand what those motivations are. And equally, if a business is looking to hire a person, you really need to understand why and who is responsible for that hire. What is going to excite and enthuse the person responsible for the hiring, and what is going to excite and enthuse the person that's looking for the job? So creating that match was about understanding, always asking questions and ensuring that both parties want this to happen. Because if that is the case, the fundamental part of the job, which is making sure that that person is suitable, once that bit's taken care of, the rest of it takes care of itself, as long as people follow that process. And that process is about time. It's about respecting that what you said is what it is, that a company will pay what they're, the offer that the company has is exactly as advertised, for example. And so those learnings are about getting the right people to do things that they want to do. Sometimes it's about doing things that they don't want to do. Sometimes it's about understanding how people can come together to do those difficult things. And I think that, fundamentally building your team is about common goal. It's about having people that are really excited, especially at this phase in our journey. It's about really excited about what we're doing, really excited that they are playing a part, that they can own a part of that journey. And for me personally, it's about being surrounded by people who are smarter than me, who will help me to be a better person, who will help me to learn, who I can learn from, but equally they will say that they learn from me and vice versa, right? So it's a give and take situation. But I think the fundamental takeaway is understanding that as human beings, we're all different. We all have something to offer, and it's making sure the people that you have in your team can contribute positively, objectively, to getting things done.
That's nice. I like the way you put it. Everybody has a unique selling point and a unique gift you're bringing to the table. It's your job to find out what you need from that person, and it's person's job to find out how they can use their unique voices or their unique talents to bring value to your company. And where there's a match, it's a marriage made in heaven.
But we're always fine-tuning, right? Because we're always growing, we're always learning, we're reacting and responding to different experiences. And the nuances of a human being, it's about how do we work together coherently and cohesively to deliver that outcome. So the vision and the goal is really, really important, but it's about being able to accommodate human needs. And I think since COVID, the mindset of what managing a team has changed a lot. And it's the stuff that a lot of people don't necessarily think about day to day. And I try to take the experiences that I've had in other businesses that were successful, that have failed, and just say, how would I do this differently? If I was in that situation again, how would I do it differently? And try to apply that learning every time. So look, we're going through the journey. So maybe that's a question you can ask me in a few years' time.
Definitely. So talking about a few years' time, where do you see because we know that the future is made up of AI, blockchains, stable coins. So where do you see the biggest opportunities for disruption in the real estate, finance and tech space over the next couple of years?
That's a really big question. We might still be here talking about it in 2 years' time. So here's the thing. For me, blockchain is about security, represents security. And when we talk about institutions that need security and to preserve the integrity of those institutions, the blockchain presents a huge opportunity that takes away the dominance that monolithic software companies have had for a long, long time, both in terms of expenditure and also the infrastructure. I think that there are huge opportunities when it comes to document management and how industry plugs into that management process to update, evolve, and to provide access. So there's a degree of transparency when it's needed to industry. So there's a huge opportunity there. And I'm talking about things like land registry. I'm talking about how a plot of land evolves through the ages and the significance of a house or a home being built, then being demolished, the valuation process. What has happened on that title over the years, because that automatically plugs into conveyancing and the need for searches, the liability and risk process in that conveyancing process when someone is buying and selling a property. So there's a huge amount of data, there's a huge amount of information that's available, but it's very disparate, it's very broken, it's very siloed. And it's about how do you create infrastructure that knocks down those silos. So I see a huge opportunity to plug into some of that change and developing new ways that the industry can operate, both public and private sector. I see that AI as a tool, much like a lot of technology that has been and gone or has evolved, it's not about forcing technology onto people in a way that people resist or are scared to use or simply just don't see the benefit. So it becomes a bit of a gimmick. I think it's about developing positive habits, and AI has Siri, Alexa, a lot of the tools that we have out there have developed into really positive habitual use cases that a lot of other organizations have jumped on. But when we talk about, smart technology across the board and, what smart environments look like, there's a lot of gimmicky concepts that haven't really taken off beyond very niche or very niche markets. And so I think that there's a mainstream view for use cases of AI in particular in a living space. There's a mainstream view for the AI use case in the process of disintermediation. So hint how the service industry will evolve, and then what that looks like as a personalized experience to a consumer or a user, a retail user, both in the sales and lettings process. And as I say, when just bringing it back to CTK and what we're shaping, these are all things that we can see having a huge impact on the perception of the industry and how the real estate industry operates, not just in the UK but globally. So look, the AI revolution will be probably bigger than the industrial revolution, and the digital
Definitely.
and also the digital transformation that's taken place in the last 10, 20 years, right? And I think that what we're going to see is an amalgamation of hardware to deliver really effective use cases that become the new normal for stuff that a lot of people might not even have really thought was doable, but will be shocked to see how close we are to things that we maybe have only seen in Star Trek as kids.
And it's evolving every day. Like every single day you see a more realistic video that AI made, and it's all AI. It's very difficult right now to even tell what's the real deal and what's AI. And it's only going to get better.
I think so. I think that, there's positives and negatives in a lot of that, right? Especially when we're talking about marketing. But what I do think is that the personal experience and how we use and control our own data and what we have real oversight of and value of that data will change in the next few years. And I think that the living space represents a huge opportunity to involve what the definition of our personal space is through the use of AI and how we engage with the data that we collect and use every day and how we make that data available to third parties.
Finally, for someone who is listening right now and who is inspired by your journey, but feels like they're starting from scratch, they don't know what to do, what's one mindset shift or action they can take today to start building their own path to success? I put you on the hot spots.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think my gut instinct is to respond to the first thing that came to mind, and that is just to get started. Take the first step.
Yeah.
Take the first step because it's the journey to 1,000 steps. Just take the first step because you can't expect to have all the answers from day one. But the mindset shift is just to say that you're getting started in whatever it is that you're pursuing, in anything in life. The more you sit and think and pontificate, the less action, the less tangible outcome. And there's another mantra that I've just learned in sales is that activity generates outcomes. So if you combine those two thought processes, you can refine, you can test, you can study, you can apply the principle of planning every day. But in order to do, you have to take action. So just take the first step. That would be my fundamental piece of advice. And I think that mindset of self-belief is just to embrace everything, positive and negative, take the positive, dump the negative, and just be willing to learn and push yourself forward. I think I'm trying to articulate how I feel about myself, what I say to people, and what I listen to other people talking about, most of the time.
Well said. Because the thing is, no one has even lived this life and come back and come to tell you how to live it. No, everyone is still figuring out their journey. So if I give you my advice of what worked for me, it might not necessarily work for you. You just need to take action and refine your steps as you move along. That's just the main thing I've seen. Because when I started out podcasting, I didn't even know Jack. I didn't even know where to look at. my first video, I was not looking at the camera. I was looking somewhere else.
We
So,
learn-
but
we
as
learn
I
it, though.
kept on doing it, I kept on making moves. Like you said, momentum brings success. I kept on doing activities, and it brought me to where I am right now. So, yes, take action, take the first step, and you learn and reiterate your journey as you move along.
Yeah, and be humble, right? I just think be humble. You can learn from so many different things and so many different people.
True.
Right? And one of the ability to communicate is to be able to share a thought or an idea. And I think that you can, like I say, you can learn from everybody in life. So be humble. Talk to people. Look, time is our most precious commodity, and it's the one thing that you ultimately, apart from the ability to use your brain, it's the one thing that you can control that nobody can take away from you. So if you decide to sell your time, that is your choice. But if you decide to define what your time is worth, that is your other choice. Don't waste it, because once it's gone, you can't get it back.
Sure.
And I think that the ability to just say to yourself, I am going to do, is such a fundamental shift in how you approach whatever endeavor it is you're pursuing, that, positive step will create the affirmation that you'll then take another step, and you'll then take another step. So you're moving. As long as you're moving, you can determine that you're going in the right or wrong direction. But if you're standing still, all you're going to do is sit there looking left, right, forward, backwards, and not know. That's why you have to take that first step. And as I say, your time is your time, and who you afford that time to. You learn with life, I think, that it's important to just take a step back and listen, because there's something to be gained from every conversation, and you don't know where a conversation is going to go. Be respectful with your time, be respectful of other people's time, and push forward fundamentally, and do good things. And good luck is what I would say.
Thank you so much for all the good luck.
Hi, I'm Chris Baldrey Chourio, founder and CEO of ConstructKoin. For decades, real estate finance has been a locked room. Slow banking on one side, desperate developers on the other, and ordinary people shut out altogether. We built ConstructKoin to change that. Our platform lets you become the lender. Buy a single ConstructKoin token and you're staking alongside institutions, earning the same 8 to 12% yields that private credit funds once kept for themselves. How? Well, we've fused deep learning risk models with smart contracts. The AI collects data points from building information management software to land values, material prices and contract and company history in minutes, while our human lending committee is the final step in the decision, securing a legal charge over the title deeds of land or property. When a project hits build phase milestone, approvals take minutes. Funds unlock automatically. Builders can break ground in no time at all, whether they're developers in London, Liverpool or Lima. That speed and transparency attracts top-tier developers like Beaufort Homes, and it opens the door for you to fund projects globally, one token at a time. And to prove our model is backed by bricks, we're raffling an entire completed home worth nearly $1 million to pre-sale participants. Lend, earn, and maybe own a house outright, no bank required. Join us, let's rewrite real estate finance together.
So this brings us to the second part of the session, is just the rapid fire round. I call it the firecracker session. So this is just me shooting you with a bunch of questions and you hitting me right back with the first answer that comes to mind. So let's go. Are you ready to go? Drum roll.
Bang, bang, bang.
What's one book or podcast that's changed the way you think about business?
Yeah, do you know, the book that I first read about entrepreneurship in my early teens was a book called How to Be an Entrepreneur by Victor Kiem. He's a guy that bought the Remington razor company. I think it was in the 70s. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
But that book just had me gripped. It was such a manifest shift in my thought process about the world around me and business in my teens that I've never been able to forget the impact that had on me. I don't know if it's still in circulation, but you could still find it digitally. But I would recommend it to absolutely everyone, because it doesn't matter where we are in life. There's just some fundamental things about what being a commercial operator is all about that you need to think about. And you're not going to get that out of a textbook. But what that is some real life case studies with some opinion and some thought leadership. So yeah, absolutely. Victor Kiem, How to Be an Entrepreneur.
Nice. What's the biggest lesson the military taught you that you still use today?
Wow. Observation.
Mm,
Observation.
okay.
Yeah.
How do you mean by observation?
I think it's about just observe, look around you, listen, use your
Hmm.
senses, in every situation. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. I think society has taught us to react and not respond. And it's a very difficult skill set. I'm still trying to master every day, right? There's a slight irony in me answering this question, given it's a quick fire round. But the point I'm trying to make is that you learn more by listening. So that sense of observation is about using your eyes, your ears, your brain. Just in certain situations, you just need to be aware. And when you have information, you can make decisions, right? So, if
Sure.
you're a leader, if you are in a critical point in your life where you're thinking about what you want to do next, if you're trying to figure it out, sometimes you've just got to look and listen. To
That
observe.
makes sense. That makes sense because I know there's one thing you said earlier. You need to continue to learn, humble yourself, and keep learning. Because if you stop learning, you stop growing, and if you stop growing, you start dying.
Right.
So
Right.
observing your environment, listening, and taking all the information in.
There's so much information out there, right?
Yes.
So much information out there. So there's no excuse.
Mhm.
It's just an individual choice. And that
Sure.
doesn't mean to sound negative. It's more that if you want to do something, don't lie to yourself. Just find out what you need to do in order to be able to do that thing. So observing could also just be about doing that research and just reading. You don't necessarily need to be engaged with another human being, but observation is key in all situations, I think.
If ConstructKoin could fund any dream real estate projects in the world, what would it be?
If ConstructKoin could fund any
dream real estate projects in the world, what would it be?
a dream project,
Yeah.
it would be to remove homelessness from every corner of the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Lastly, what's one piece of advice you'd give your younger self before your first business venture?
One piece of advice I would give myself.
Yeah.
Wow. It's probably a combination of observation and don't rush. Life is a journey. Don't rush.
That's a new one. Don't rush.
Don't rush. When it's meant to be, it will happen. Everybody's journey is different,
Sure.
which means that the moving parts that you have to reconcile in order to achieve whatever your dreams are, you cannot control. But what you can do is control and influence what is in your control. So make the right choices. And if you're rushing, you won't necessarily make the right choices.
Sure.
When I think about the early part of my career, I think I rushed in my desire to push ahead for all the wrong reasons and a few right reasons. And I think that, with that, the opportunity to reflect with the benefit of hindsight, that's what comes to mind. If you ask me with a few more hours to think about it, I might have a different answer, but my impulse might say, don't rush.
Yeah, don't rush. Thank you so much. So lastly, how can we reach you? Your socials, websites?
Yeah. So we're on all of the social and we're evolving our social. So ConstructKoin, coin with a K, you'll find us, and constructkoinwithak.com is the website. You'll find there's bits and pieces that are starting to appear. Binance, there's a piece in Forbes recently where I was quoted.
Nice.
There's a few bits that we're doing, and I'm excited about the press we're about to launch. So hopefully you'll just be able to Google or ChatGPT ConstructKoin and it will all...
It'll come up, yes.
But we're
definitely.
getting there, right? So we're building out that ecosystem. So we shouldn't be too difficult to find. But if you look for ConstructKoin with a K, you'll find us. One thing I will say for anybody listening is that we will never contact you directly. On social in particular, there's a lot of, ropey situations out there. ConstructKoin administrators, our team will never contact you directly on social. So always come to our website and look for the correct handles for whatever platform you want to engage us through. And that's really important. I think that I've spoken to other CEOs over the last year of, some real horror stories of what can happen. And so that's my one piece of advice is hear that message, but also just come to our website, check the social handle that on the particular medium or platform that you want to engage us through. And, we'd be happy to hear from you. And I'm very happy to answer any questions that anybody has about any part of what we're doing at any point, as long as it's not at 2:00 in the morning. You'll have to wait until we start. Apart from that, we're here. We're here, we're real, and we're doing it.
Yes, we're here, we're real, and we're doing it.
There we go.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's been a pleasure hosting you on the pod today. Thank you for all you shared. And there we have it, guys. Chris has basically broken down how he's being the bank. He's basically using his ConstructKoin project to redefine real estate accessibility to the nation. So I would make sure to put the links in the description so you can go there, go to his website, and let's start building our own thing. Chris said something that was profound. He said, you need to get started. Don't rush, but get started and keep learning as you go along. That's the best way to achieve success. And define what success means to you. Define it, enjoy the process, but keep going because momentum eventually builds success. So thank you so much, Chris. It's been a pleasure having you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope that made for good listening for everyone that's plugged in. But yeah, real pleasure to talk to you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. So guys, there we have it, guys. Let's continue to turn knowledge into action and breaks into banks. This has been Breaks and Banks podcast. So come your way next week. It's check.